Hello, everyone. So because our class time is extremely limited, I wanted to go over another set of just housekeeping things, how the class runs, things to watch out for, how grading is, etc. So just going off of some of the information that's on our syllabus, obviously we're in a hybrid class, which is why our class time is so short. My email is on there. You've all should have been receiving emails by now with all of the announcements that have come through. So scrolling down a bit, basic outline of percentages in the class, our basic schedule, which again, you should not look to for due dates, but is, generally there to give you an idea of how things will go during class. Recorded class sessions. So a couple of things on that. First of all, if you go to Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, and wait for it to load. You can go to the hamburger menu here, and recordings are under here. They do take a little while to populate, so they won't show up directly after class. You're going to have to, wait a little while, and then they'll show up. When they first show up, they'll just be titled something that's nonsense, and I'll go in and I will eventually rename them. The other thing with class recordings is that we need to ask your permission technically. So if you go to assignments, if you go to assignments and scroll down, you'll see consent to record sessions. And if you click on this, it's just a quick one question test. And it just asks the formal permission. So you would hit yes and hit submit, and then I would get all the permissions coming in on my end. So please make sure to do that as soon as possible so that we can make sure we have all the proper permissions for everyone for recording. Remember that your chat is anonymized afterwards, so you won't see your names or anything. But if you were to speak, it would show up on there. All right, so there's stuff on here about withdrawal and Blackboard. Make sure if you have any general questions to go to the ACE Center. So if they're just questions about computers generally, they can help you out there. Obviously, we're using official student email. All right, so at the bottom, there's a note that you won't see on your non-DAT classes. This is all from from Ray and us and the DAT program. And some of it has to do with withdrawal and everything, but a few things I want to note that are specific to our class. So assignment submission. First of all, in order to submit stuff, we go to assignments. And then you go to the actual assignment in question. Now, I think I've already did this once on a broken video. Yeah. So if you've already submitted something and something went wrong, and I email you and I say, the file's broken, or it's clearly the wrong file, you should be able to say start new. Now, please do not abuse this. Please do not do this 4, 5, 6 times in a row. But like once, everyone, messes up once in a semester. But you get to this page, and this is where you submit things. It gives you, the assignment due date, which is basically the start of class. So really, you want to upload things before class because we are going to start talking, right at 3:30. But you browse for your files. I put mine on my desktop somewhere. There we go. It has my last name and then the name of the project. The name of the project, put it whatever you want that helps you know what you need. Tell one thing apart from the other. But your last name really needs to be on this file so that I know whose they are, because when I download them, I'm getting 12 solar systems. I need to know whose is whose because right now your guys' work all looks the same. So please make sure you're putting your last name. Don't bother changing this. That doesn't do anything. Also, if you have a note, let me know which part you struggled with or which part you liked or which part, maybe broke on you. This is a good way to give me a heads up where a certain struggle was. If a lot of people are mentioning it, then I'll review it in class. If it's just you, then I can, go over it with you at some point. I can write it in my notes when I, grade your work. We hit submit. And this is what I'll see on my end. I'll see that you told me that you had trouble with grouping. So when I go to write my notes, I can take a very specific look at that, and I can write in, oh, okay, this is, I think this is where the problem was, or be aware of this, right? If you don't give me that heads up, I don't know what to look for. Eventually, once things get graded, they go under here. If you have submitted something, it says submitted. That's what this yellow mark means. It means I haven't graded it yet, right? So the day after you guys submit stuff, I'm not gonna have grades ready yet. Once you do submit things, there will be a number in there. It'll say, 20 of 25, and there will be a box where you can click where the notes are. The major workshops, the ones that are for homework, you will almost always get notes from me back, especially if you hand your work in on time. So please read them. They take time for me to write. If you see this blue one, so I did the test, but I didn't actually take it, so it's suspended. If you see this for a regular assignment, it means it didn't work. It means maybe you closed out of the browser too early or something went wrong on the upload. So check your My Grades every so often and see, oh, this got submitted, great, she's gonna grade it. Oh, this didn't work, let me redo this. Also, if you see, a 0 of 25 or 0 of 30, that means either you're 2 weeks or more late with your assignment or something went awry. Maybe you handed in the wrong file. It happens. So before you check to say, oh, why is my grade this? Or how am I doing in class? Check your My Grades section first. See the notes that I have written and see what's missing. Don't ask me what you have missing. See what's missing from here. On late work, I take late work throughout the semester. However, you lose more and more points as you go. So you only get partial credit. And know that this semester, especially for this class, it's all sequential. The tools that we have to make the fancy box this week, you're going to have so many more tools by the time you get down here. So if you don't hand it in until here, yeah, it might look very nice. But like you did it using 8 weeks worth of more practice in this program and more tools, so you're not going to get very many points. With late work, you are better off, even if it's not quite complete, you are much better handing it in up here. Oh, it's a few days late and a little bit unfinished, way better than handing in something that's very finished 8 weeks later. So keep that in mind as you go. It also means I know how well you're doing. It also means you're not going to be getting zeros for things. You don't want the zeros to pile up because kind of clawing your way back from that in your grade is difficult. Also, this mentions resubmissions. So if you are thinking that you want to resubmit something, first of all, don't do any new work until you contact me, because you need to have handed in your work on time. So if you hand your fancy box in on time, great. But also there needs to be like something. Resubmissions are for if you kind of missed the point. Like you made a good faith effort, you put in the time and you handed it in on time, but it turns out you whoopsed. And it wasn't, you see what everyone else did and went, oh crap. And so you redo some work. What we don't want is you hand stuff in and it's not quite complete and then you complete it later. That's a no-go. It has to be complete the first time. And what we don't want is, I give you this feedback, which is based on what the assignment says, and then you just add those little things in and suddenly your grade is better. Because I am very specific about what you should be handing in. For example, here's our solar system. And so I specified these are the things that we did in class. Notice I scratched out the moon because we did not actually do that. And then, so this is what at least has to be in there. And then, things to maybe raise your grade a little bit, offsetting things, experimenting with materials, adding some moons. There's things that you can do to get that A, to get that solid A. Because doing the bare minimum does not get you that. So I do specify what you want to get. Also, I posted this here. I'm a little out of order because I'm redoing this video after an audio debacle. So this right here is kind of a graph of work, because this subject, there's aesthetics, there's technical competencies, but there's also how much you put into the assignment. So I have quality of execution over on this one side, right? Obviously, if it's terrible and everything's broken versus it's all right, versus it's pretty good, that's a nice looking model. And then of course there's excellent, meaning the aesthetics are great, technologically everything is working exactly as planned, right? This is the measure by which we always think of with grades. But this is a more advanced class. It's a 200 level class. And the assignments, the solar system notwithstanding, once we get into other assignments, there's a lot of room for how much you want to do. So I call that the ambition of the project, right? And so you could have some excellent work, but if you only do the bare minimum, if the midterm says 4 tools in a toolbox and you do 4 very basic tools in a very basic toolbox, they might look great, but like you're not going to get the A because that was the bare minimum, right? So you're going to get somewhere in like a B minus range. I color coded it so we can kind of see where we are in the graph. Whereas if you do a substantial amount of work and it's very good, well, you'll get a solid B, if not a B plus, depending on, where you land on that. If you want an A, especially on midterms and finals, but also even on workshops, you got to really do something with your assignment and you have to do it excellently. So it's both the quality of the execution and the amount of work you are doing that will go into your grade, right? So again, if we go to assignments where we look at the specifics of what's being asked, if bare minimum is that things are labeled properly, bare minimum is that things are in the right place. But if you like really nicely design your solar system, right, that gets you closer to an A because instead of just everything in a line or everything like very big, you're thinking about the composition of what you're doing. If you experiment with some of the colors and materials, you're trying new stuff. So I'll almost always have some stuff in here that kind of specifies what we're looking for. The bigger the project, the more specific I will get. I will show examples whenever I can of what we're looking for, especially with the bigger assignments and what works and what doesn't. What we're trying to avoid is you guys wondering what to do. We're trying to avoid questions about that. And this is not a class where you want to ask me, oh, is it done? No, don't ask me that. Don't ask me, is this good enough? Right? Like if you look at this graph and then you look at the assignment tells you how much is a bare minimum. It tells you ways you can bring this up. And what we see in class and in example videos and things will show you the quality of execution scale. And we're trying to give you a baseline by which you can critique your own work. That's the other thing. I want you guys to learn how to be critical of your work in a way that you feel confident that when you submit something, you know about where it's going to land. Right? There's less room on the solar system because it's a little bit simpler, but that's to, get you going into the class. As we go further along, hopefully, these assignments are going to get more and more complex, but by then, hopefully, you will have a better idea of just what counts as well done. In this class, obviously, we're not professionals yet. So we want to be self-critical and we want to be able to own our work and not have to ask our teacher, is it done? Is there a stamp of approval? You're not getting that from me. I will critique. I will give you feedback. I'll let you know, if you're like, how is this color? What about this shape? I'll absolutely give you specific feedback on the assignment, but stamp of approval is not going to be forthcoming before you submit. Ray included a rationale about why exactly what I just said, so you can read that there as well about why things being in on time matters. And then the last thing, which most of you are being pretty good about, but if you email me after hours, like 9, 10 o'clock at night, I will get back to you the next day, usually. If you email me during the week during regular hours, I usually respond pretty quickly. Occasionally, I may not be around, so you might have to wait a little while, but it should be that day. The exception being on Thursdays, I have an hour-long commute to get to the class, so if you email me at 2, I will probably not be available. But aside from that, I do try to make myself very available to answer your questions as soon as possible because our actual class, this says high flex, we're actually in a hybrid, which means we have less time in class to really go through things. We have some time, and of course I'll answer questions there. But since you are all doing your work outside of class, if you're working on things on a Tuesday at 10 a.m., I want to make sure that I can get feedback to you as soon as possible. To that end, just almost always include your Maya file. Just save your Maya file, upload it to the email. It may be that I don't have to look at it, but if you send it to me right away with your first email, I can I can check it right away if I need to, because sometimes that's just the easiest way to find what's going on with the file, and you'll get feedback sooner. And they're very small files, so it's not like when we get to larger stuff, then that'll be different. But for the most part, you'll be able to send it pretty easily. So hopefully that helps. Now that the sound is hopefully working, this will update, and you will actually get the information that I promised you a couple days ago.